I failed at cooking brisket more times than I care to remember, but I finally cracked the code. And what I discovered completely changed my perspective on cooking brisket. Everyone kept on telling me that you just need a good rub or you just need some more smoke. But that just led to meat that tasted like a smoky hockey puck. The breaking point was when my brisket looked amazing after 12 hours. It was beautifully dark and smoky, but tougher than my grandmother's fruitcake from 1987. And that's when I realized that these barbecue gurus got everything wrong. Now, fast forward just a little bit, and I managed to cook some of the most amazing briskets I've ever had. I'm talking about competition worthy. And the craziest part, it wasn't about the smoke. It wasn't about the rub. In this video, I'm going to show you the exact step-by-step process that took my brisket from disaster to delicious. And I'm going to show you 3 different tips that made all the difference. And I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to show you what to do. Let's get started. Hi, I'm Corey, and this is Smoky Beginnings. And on this channel, I teach backyard barbecue enthusiasts the right way to do barbecue. And I've been doing it for over 10 years. Now, cooking brisket is kind of like a rite of passage. It's a big piece of meat, and it can go very wrong if you don't follow the right steps. And in this video, we're going to go over what I did wrong and how to fix it. Now, why is cooking brisket so intimidating? The reason is it's a large cut of meat and it's expensive. You're looking at probably anywhere from 60 to 70 bucks to maybe well over 100, depending on the grade of brisket that you choose. So when it comes to beginners, they're kind of intimidated. They don't want to screw up this expensive piece of meat. Now, some other reasons that beginners find it intimidating is the size of the meat. They've never cooked something that big. Maintaining the heat is another reason, and not knowing how long to cook the brisket for or how to keep it moist. Now, we're going to go over each one of those and how to fix it. Now, when it came to my first brisket, I watched a lot of videos online and I thought, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And I think I was a little too overconfident on my first brisket. I thought I could just put it on the smoker, let it go for hours on end without checking in and not knowing the internal temperature and not doing anything to keep it moist. Now, some of the things that I ran into was temperature control. What I found out is that I didn't have my smoker at the right temperature. And on a charcoal smoker, you're going to want to open up the vents or close the vents in order to get the right temperature. On a pellet grill, you can just set the temp. Same thing for an electric smoker as well. But on a charcoal grill, you can definitely get those heat fluctuations. And if you don't pay attention to them, that's where a lot of your issue can start. Another issue that I ran into was wrapping the brisket too early. I thought I had hit the stall at about like 145, 150. It wasn't going anywhere, when really right around 160, 170 is when the stall happens. So I wrapped my brisket a little too early, which actually kind of like steamed the brisket and it led to a mushy brisket. Another thing that I've done in the past is not let the brisket rest. I was short on time and I took the brisket off the smoker, put it on the cardboard, sliced it, thought I was going to be fine. I was wrong. You're going to want to let this thing rest. Again, when the temperature management, what you're going to be looking for is to set your smoker between 225 degrees to 250 degrees Fahrenheit. That's going to be the sweet spot for low and slow. If you're going to go hot and fast, the max temperature that you want is going to be 300 degrees Fahrenheit. And you're going to really want to watch your smoker and your brisket at that point, because this thing is going to be cooking a lot faster than expected. The meat has a possibility of burning instead of cooking. And then the fat is going to just run out of that meat instead of staying inside of it. And when you rack too early, what you're going to do, there's going to be so much juice left in that wrap, is that it's going to braise, it's going to steam, and you are definitely going to get a tender brisket, but it's going to be a mushy brisket. So avoid wrapping it too early. And if you're new to backyard barbecue and you need helps with cooking times and temperatures, I have a free guide for you. All you got to do is comment 100 down below and I'll send it your way. It covers everything from meats to veggies and is perfect for getting started. Now, some key lessons that I learned is that patience is key. This is going to be probably about a 12-hour cook. And if you rush it, you're gonna get nothing but a sad brisket. And we don't want that. Don't rush the process. Just let it cook. Watch a football game. Have a drink. Play with the kids. Make your side dishes. You have plenty of time to get things done while this thing cooks. However, even though patience is key, you really want to pay attention to that internal temperature, because that internal temperature is going to let you know what you need to do step by step. For instance, the first thing that I'm looking for is the bark to set. This is usually going to take about 3 hours, and the brisket is going to be well over 100 degrees. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to test the bark to see if it is set by pressing my finger on it. If there's any bark that has transferred to my finger, I gotta let this thing go longer. And I'm talking longer, probably about another 10 degrees, maybe 20 degrees, depending on what your internal temperature is currently. So the first step is having that bark set. At that point, I'm going to be able to spritz the brisket. And I'm going to want to do this with apple juice, apple cider vinegar, or just water. I want to do that once the bark is set. So my first internal temperature target is going to be well over 100. My second internal temperature mark that I'm looking for is about 160. This is going to be when the stall happens. This is going to be when I want to wrap my brisket. So that's going to be the step number 2 there. And again, this is all going on internal temperature. So a meat probe is going to be absolutely important here. I like to use the meter plus. It gives me an estimated time, and I know exactly the internal temperature of my brisket at any moment during the cook. Now, the third internal temperature mark that I'm looking for is going to be between 200 and 205 degrees Fahrenheit. And this is going to be when the brisket is actually done. And it's going to be the time that we actually want to rest the brisket. And when it comes to rest, you're going to want to let this thing rest for about 1 to 4 hours. You're going to wrap it in a towel, you're going to put it in a cooler, or you're going to put it in the oven. And what you're going to want to do is allow that internal temperature to come down. We're going to be looking for that internal temperature to come down right to about 160 to 170 before we actually slice the brisket. Now, if we go above 170 to like 180 to 190, then what we're looking at is going to be a very soft, mushy brisket. We want it to actually firm up a little bit. Now, if we go to like 140, 130, then the brisket is going to actually be probably a little too firm and not optimal. So about 150 to 160 is what we're going to be looking for. Maybe 170, probably like 150 to 170 is what we're looking at for when it's going to be time to actually slice this thing. And by allowing it to rest and using our patience, it allows the fat to redistribute and the moisture to redistribute and the juices to redistribute throughout the meat. When it comes to slicing, what you're going to want to do is slice against the grain, and seeing how there's 2 different types of muscles within this whole packer brisket, you're going to have the muscles running in 2 different directions. Flat is going to run in one way and the point is going to run in a different way. So you just got to be mindful of which way the grain is running while you're slicing it. Quick recap in order to get that perfect, delicious brisket every single time is you want to be patient. You want to monitor your internal temperature. You want to let it rest, and you want to slice it against the grain. I know this is 4 little tips here, but these 4 little tips are going to be what leads you to absolutely perfect results. And know that it is okay to make mistakes when you're doing backyard barbecue. Nobody's perfect, but the point here is to learn from your mistakes. And that's what I did. I did a lot of testing, a lot of delicious testing, but I learned something different that I could do to improve the quality of my end result. So now you know how I ruined my first brisket and how you can avoid these issues so that your brisket comes out perfect every single time with that perfect bark, that perfect smoke ring, and being absolutely delicious. But it's not the only way to cook a brisket. Check out this video right here where I cook the most tender and juiciest brisket I've ever cooked. Check out this video now. I'll see you there.